Are you wanting to build stronger relationships with people and have more confidence in yourself in doing so? Well, today I'm going to share perspective in this. And if you stay until the end, I have an extra point for you then. Now, as a kid, I used to get really frustrated when other people opposed what I believed. And I used to lack in confidence at times socially because I was annoyed that people didn't act in a certain way that I wanted to. Now I look back, it seems very naive. We all go through certain journeys, though, right, on our life. And I realized when I was getting frustrated and annoyed, like other people weren't changing. And as I grew up and started particularly going through the personal growth world, and I started taking action, understanding people, meeting all sorts of people, I started to understand that people only come from their model of the world. And their model of the world is none of your business. It is their model of the world. You can't change another person. So I thought this was really interesting to talk about because today I was having a conversation with my sister and we were talking about, and we get on really, really well. And we were talking about like certain relationships we have with like other people and the fact that people have different views in life, right? So I thought this was a talking point, not about that specifically, but it really jogged the subject when I was thinking about my network of friends and also my family in my life and how I've been very fortunate to attract the great people I have into my life. And there's a certain bunch of things that I've done that's really helped me develop my relationships. And I haven't always been confident in relationships. Now, we're going to talk more about relationships in general. Like intimate relationships is probably a subject on its own, and we won't go into that today. But I wanted to really talk about how you can build more confidence in being able to therefore attract better relationships into your life and enhance any good ones you've got already. The thing is, we think people see the world the way we do, and they don't. You aren't as much of a highlight to them as you might think. All right. People are usually concerned with their own story and what's going on with them. It's not to say we don't care about each other. Of course we do. You only have to look at a loving mother. I've got a very loving mother to see that obviously other human beings care about each other. And you can see that in couples, you can see that in family relationships and friend relationships, right? It's often the case, though, that we're worried about us and how we're feeling to care too much about how someone's actually, when we're projecting our own world in our own head, someone else is not going to be thinking exactly that same thing about you. That's really important to realize. And it can also make us a little bit more anxious when we get really worried about what others think. And when we start thinking people see the world in the same way we do, we start making assumptions. I think that's a phrase I heard once at an event, assumptions about what they actually genuinely believe. Now, we can never tell what someone's thinking in their head, and realizing that, and actually the way they're going to go about life we can only influence that by being our best selves and who we are. Now, how is it helping you by getting frustrated with the way someone's behaving and trying to change them and they're not? Well, it's probably not done very well. And this is a lesson I've learned, that you can't change other people. Even if you care and love for them, and they're generally very great people, you may just have certain views about things that you think would help them, but they don't believe so. Well, at the end of the day, you can only do so much, right? So let's go into how you can start building confidence in yourself and in your relationships in 3 points. So the first one is know your values and boundaries. You can't say someone's crossed your values or boundaries if you've not set them clearly, right? And we say, oh, you got crossed the line. So you've got to be very clear on what are your values and boundaries. Now, they're slightly different. Values are the way you go about life, the way you see things, and what really shapes your life. What do you value in life? Is it courage? Is it growth? And you can have rules that actually hit your values. And then boundaries are things that you set in place saying, if someone does this, therefore it's crossing the line. Now, I would suggest don't have too many rules in life, because if you do, right, it's just going to make you unhappy. because people would be crossing it otherwise. Now you can have obviously very clear boundaries, like if someone was to be like verbally abusive to you, like, and they said certain things to you, you would have nothing to do with them again, like in a certain way, or maybe you would, depending on it was like a second chance, or maybe you had a boundary that if they said it to you several times, you would cut them out of your life. So you got your boundaries. When we're really clear, rather than just kind of making up as we go along, that can help us form relationships because we know what our values and boundaries are. So that's the first one. Know what your values are. What do you value? Be very clear. Pick your top 3 to 5. For me, it's like personal growth, it's love, it's courage. Those are some of mine. Those are how what I value in my life, and I go by it. And then boundaries. I know there's certain boundaries with people, right? And I'm very clear on them, and that's why I don't attract bad people into my life. When I say bad people, I mean people who, it's in their best interest to not see you do well. Sometimes people aren't bad people. They're just people who just got different views, and it's not going to work between you in whatever kind of relationship you've got. The second thing is don't assume why someone. Don't assume. I've gone a bit brain dead there. Don't assume that you know why someone acts in a certain way. Never make assumptions. Like I say, an assumption, right? Just get curious why they're behaving in a certain way. It's very common for this very common, not just this area, but it's very common in the men and women relationships. There's all kinds of different relationships out there, but if it's like a man and a woman relationship, intimate relationship, then often it's a case that, you hear us guys, I've been guilty of it obviously in the past as well. When like a woman's upset, we want to go and solve it for her like half the time, rather than assuming that's what she wants us to do. Maybe she just wants you to listen. Never make an assumption on what you think someone wants. That's just one example. Your friends not talking to you. Maybe they've just lost someone. Maybe they're not just ignoring you. You never know. So get curious why someone's acting a certain way. Now, obviously, if it comes back to your boundaries, if they're just being abusive, all those kind of things, then you've really got to question whether you have a stern word or not. Okay, and then the third one, be clear on the relationships you want in your life. Write it down. This overlaps a little bit with the boundaries, but what would your life look like with ideal relationships, with your family, with your friends, with your intimate relationship? What do you want out of those relationships? I write it every single day, like twice a day, what kind of relationships I want. So it gets my mind focused on that. So anything that deviates that is I'm not interested in that kind of relationship with whoever it is, friends, friends or a close intimate one. All right. So write down the types of relationships you want. So my final point, I'm just going to say in a minute, but just before we get to that, I want to appreciate you for listening today. And if you've appreciated the episode as well, I would really value a rating and review on iTunes so we can reach more people together. If you've done so already, thank you so much. My final point, talk to a professional about your relationships. Now, I do therapy, I do counseling. I don't do therapy. I'm not a therapist, but I mean, I'm a coach, but I have my own coach because it would be crazy not to. I have my own therapist. And actually talking about my relationships with people really helps me improve myself because I'm speaking it out loud. It's not being stored in my head. And I don't end up like projecting a frustration to someone. If I have a conversation with one of the professionals and I'm like, right, typically the therapist is more come under, but I would then go and talk to that person and then maybe interact with them a little bit more. Having it stored in your head and frustrations and things like that is stupid to be totally down to the point, to not talk about how you're feeling, right? Else it's just going to store up and it's going to come out in probably a very bad way. So talk to a professional about your relationships if you really want to understand them and then build more confidence, because they won't necessarily give you they won't give you a biased opinion. They won't necessarily always give you an opinion. They may just give you a bit of guidance in your thinking and getting some more clear out of your thinking, usually through facilitated questions. So that's my additional point for you then. And that's really going to improve your confidence because you know how you're operating, you know how you're really feeling. So therefore, when you get to the truth, you can act with more confidence from that place. So that's what I got for you today. I want to thank you once again for listening. And if you could share this podcast, that'd be hugely appreciated. I don't spend any money on ads or anything like that. It's completely organic. So you could be changing someone's life by sharing this. I appreciate you. And remember, you're in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.